Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, and welcome everyone. As I think all of you know, I'm Carol Eastwood.
And I'm Chetan Parkyn.
And we're here today to share with you a combination of the wisdom of two of the self-awareness systems that are what I have found are the most information correct and most impactful information systems on the planet today. That's astrology and human design. So we have a lot to share with you looking at the entire month, and we're going to dip into a little bit of the last part of May. But before we do that, we want to share with you our evolutionary human design news. The new thing that's on deck this month is my life path reading special. And my life path reading it combines the wisdom of human design and astrology, and often I pull in information from the fixed stars, as well as working with my guides and intuitive awareness to do a deep dive, a 90-minute, really deep dive into the purpose and the whole evolutionary path of your entire lifetime. It's a once a year only bonus in which we offer not just the life path reading, but an additional bonus session of another 60-minute coaching session with me. And that coaching session, I think most of you know, I'm a business success and life transformation coach. I have been now for many years. And what the coaching session does is it helps you to integrate all that you've learned in your life path reading. Now, this special does expire on June 15th. So if it's calling to you, if you feel like this might be the time to take a deep look at your life, go to our website, evolutionaryhumandesign.com/life.
It's forward slash.
Well, forward slash. I never say that right, do it. Slash life dash path dash reading. Or you can just go to the website and use the drop down menu at the top under the readings tab, and you'll see my life path reading. So you can read about it more there. There's a video there if you want to watch it. You can learn about it and just check it out and see if it might be right for you, because it does expire on the 15th. So let's begin our exploration of the coming month's themes. Before we do that, I want to remind you, because we're at the halfway point of the year, or just about, is that 2023, we name that the year of the dramatic wake-up call to heal global relations. So every year as we're creating our evolutionary human design program, we take a look at the energies, we research the energies of the entire year, and we pull out the main themes that we see in the year. And I think you may agree that this is kind of the year where the rubber meets the road. Like we get on board with transformation or we don't. You know, we're either going to move forward or we're not. So it's a pivotal, really important year for all of humanity. The decisions we make now are going to determine the quality of our life for decades to come. As the month of May begins to draw to a close, and when the sun entered Gemini, it did that on May 21st. What happens is that brings us the last month of the spring season. And as where we are now, on the 27th of May, the spring season having come to a close and moving towards the summer solstice, which happens on the 21st of June. And of course, we know, for those of you who are in the southern hemisphere, that for you, it is your winter solstice. But either way, it's a big change point for all of humanity. And that means that this month brings the winds of change. You may recall that we recently had a set of two powerful eclipses. And those powerful eclipses always, of course, bring significant changes into our lives. The last of these two eclipses happened just 3 weeks ago on May 5th. It was a lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Scorpio, opposite 15 degrees of Taurus. And for those of you who have planets astrologically in that place, that eclipse really has your name on it. but actually eclipses have everybody's name on it because it affects all of our lives. So this means that we're still integrating now, here as we just 3 weeks past that eclipse, we're still integrating the effect of the eclipse and of both eclipses, and that's going to continue through June. And integration implies that we've become aware of where we are in the process of implementing and integrating all the changes that we see, both in that need to happen in our lives and our business, but also all the changes that have come into our awareness. So another factor to keep in mind as we enter the month of June is that the planet of communication, Mercury, just resumed direct motion on May 15th. After being retrograde, I think we all know what that is. It's apparent backwards motion. Most of the planets do this for various periods of time. Mercury does it 3 times a year. So it's a regular phenomenon that gives us an opportunity to catch up on projects and communications and oil changes for our car and all the things that we perhaps have sort of put off. It gives us a time, a bit of a pause when the energy isn't running so fast moving forward, where we can step back and deal with things that we need to catch up on, basically.
Health too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this particular Mercury retrograde, because it's in the sign of Taurus, we're also probably really reviewing our financial life and, you know, really taking a good look at our financial well-being. It's giving us a pause for reconsideration of our values and our resources so that we can come to terms with that which is really vitally important to us and make new choices moving forward. So important life decisions are being made through the month of May, both because we're reviewing things with the Mercury retrograde and also because of the 2 eclipses that we just had. But it's important to remember that while Mercury is retrograde, and even after it goes direct in the middle of May, it's still another 2 weeks. It'll be until May 31st that Mercury actually passes the point where it went retrograde. So until the 31st, we're still integrating and working with things that came up that we need to attend to. After May 31st, when Mercury passes that point of its retrograde, it picks up speed, and then we begin entering new territory. So we're going to take a look at the last lunation of the month of May, which contains the new themes that we'll be working with in June. And I'm going to do this really briefly through the astrological lens, and then I'll invite you, Chetan, to show us what's happening, which is fascinating through the human design matrix. So first quarter moon is today, May 27th. The first quarter moon in the sign of Virgo. And what's interesting about this particular first quarter moon, well, let me back up and say that the first quarter moon is about a week after the new moon, and the new moon starts a new cycle for 30 days. So the first quarter moon is the first time that we get to really be at a point of being ready to start implementing on those new things that we became aware of at the new moon. And that syncs up really nicely with the Mercury, the planet Mercury picking up speed here towards the end of the month. So it's time to go into implementation mode. And this full moon is also interacting with the planet Saturn. And essentially what that means is that we're here to essentially take a really good practical look at what it is that we've been creating for ourselves and in our lives over the past many months, and where we want, what commitments we want to make. What are the things that we've decided are really going to be valuable, are going to be good resources, are going to be good directions to go in. We're really looking at what's practical and what's effective, which is, of course, you know, a great thing to be doing right now, coming out of the Sun in Taurus and going into implementation phase and a communication phase with the Sun in Gemini. So this first quarter moon kicks things off. The planet of expansion and new learning, Jupiter, joins the moving soul path for all humanity in the sign of Taurus. And that's emphasizing the theme of reaching new levels of clarity about what's most important to us in life and how we both attract and how we manage our resources. So at this first quarter moon in Virgo, our true values are really being illuminated, but also they may be challenged by both Pluto, the planet of transformation, and Mars, the planet of action. So that aspect is going to require action, not just sentiment. It's time to get in gear with the changes that we know that we need to make. The first quarter moon is also in a tight aspect with the planet of structure and discipline, Saturn. We were just talking about that. Saturn in Pisces, meaning that we're going to be compelled to make some substantial commitment, a really deep and substantial commitment to the new endeavors in our life, and to see them through into actualization, no matter what distractions come up, because they will, especially with the sun in Gemini. And then Venus in the sign of Cancer brings a really boost of innovative ideas in the period in particular between May 25th and May 28th, where we are right now. So if you're getting great downloads of ideas that are coming to you, I would write those down. They're probably going to be inspired guidance coming to you from your soul wisdom. So that's what I see for that first quarter moon. Chetan, over to you to take us into this time.
So I'm just going to regress a little bit back to the eclipse that we had in the early part of May. And that eclipse that you remarked on, it was Scorpio Taurus. And basically, an eclipse opens up all kinds of possibilities. And the key, if you will, is this balance in the human design between gateway number 2 and gateway number 1. So gateway number 1 is the gateway of creativity, and it's the most yang and outgoing and active, we might say, of all the gateways in the human design, in the I Ching. And then gateway number 2 is the gateway of receptivity, which is the most yin of all. And so the eclipse really exposed us to this point in time where, to allow ourselves to progress in our creativity, we need to be open, to be more receptive. It was at an extreme balance between the two sides of things. And so many people will begin to realize, if they've not just begun, they'll see that all kinds of gifts are opening up again. Psychic gifts, clairvoyant gifts, clairaudient gifts, all these gifts, healing gifts, like connecting into other places and other parts of life that somehow, where did that come from? And perhaps these are old memories, and perhaps these are old gifts and things that are coming back, getting reignited in our lives. So it's a very amazing time. And in a sense, it can be really quite disruptive. We've got used to, well, you know, life always goes along like this. And then all of a sudden we find out we're being exposed to other possibilities. So the key of this particular time, all the way up until the solstice in June, is receptivity. That is the bottom part of the hexagrams that are relating in this part of our lives now. Be receptive, be open to allow things to come in and trigger us, if you will, trigger us to seeing life in a very different way. Now, all of these gateways that I'm talking about at the moment, where the sun drops into, they're all in the throat center. And they're all in this quarter of the wheel around us in human design that we see the wheel of, or that part of the wheel of civilization. And it really is that time of communication. It really is that time of putting things out, expressing things. And the first 3 gateways of these throat gateways are all individual expression. They're all announcing things of newness and difference. And we probably realize, you know, there's been some very interesting announcements lately about AI and, you know, where that's all going. A particular chip making company made the greatest jump in its profits in a day that has ever been recorded because it makes chips for AI. And so there's really a massive shift in terms of how we are relating with life and what we're allowing AI to do for us. So at this particular time where we're going into the end of the month of May, there are these, the sun at this moment in time is in gateway number 16. It just went in last night. And gateway number 16 opens up this whole arena of planning. And it's one of those times where, whatever we have going on in our lives, we have to really look and see. Gate 16 is the gateway of skill and enthusiasm, but it's also the gateway of the critic, the one that looks at things and says, is this really worthwhile? Is this really going to go anywhere? Is this really serving anyone in particular? And so just to see about that, to really be able to identify what are those things and what we really want to put our energy towards as we end up the merry month of May and enter into the month of June. Right off when we get into June, the sun goes into gateway number 35, which is gateway of progress. Now, progress is part in human design. We see it as kind of the end of the loop of experience. That we jump into something, oh, this looks like fun, we get into it. And then by the time it's all done, or a project or whatever it is, a building, we get to the end of the project and we find out, did that really do anything for us? Did we find that we just went round in the same old loop? Or did we actually step up in our lives? Did we expand in our consciousness? So as the sun enters into gateway number 35 with the first line, it opens up this life theme that we call consciousness. And so as we enter into June, we're just having this opportunity to see, am I actually going anywhere in my life? So sun in the gate 35, we know that Neptune is in gateway number 36, the gateway of, I call it crisis resolution. It's called darkening of the light. It's that thing, I've never done this before, is there a way through? And so the sun is going to come in here, the gate number 35, and really highlight those things that we're going on in our lives at the moment and just see, actually, there's a lot of light, there's a lot of possibility to get through here. And it's all about aligning with our consciousness, our sense of consciousness. In English, there is just one word for consciousness. You go to somewhere like India, there's about 20 odd names for consciousness, different levels, different perceptions, different ways of seeing things. But it's just expanding out of just seeing things at a material level and seeing things and perhaps opening up into a much more spiritual level. So this connection goes through all the way up to the 8th of the month. And in the meantime, on the 3rd of June, we have a full moon. And so this is the first full moon after that eclipse that we had in May. And this full moon drops into gateway number 5. So gateway number 5 is a gateway of timing. And it has, in life, there are always seasons. There are natural timings to all kinds of things. And so it's really alerting us to the sense of timing of life. So in the month, we're also at the solstice, we're going to get where the sun goes into gateway number 15. And we'll just see the 15 is this gateway that's common to all living things. So I'm just going to say about the month of June, great time to be in nature, great time to be attuning to life around us, great time to be really tuning into our sense of rhythm. Is AI going to put us out of business? Is AI going to do great things for us? Because it's coming, whether we like it or not. It's going to change everything.
It's going to make it easier for us, I think.
Great. So, here's this thing of sense, how are we spending our time? What do we put, time is the great gift of life. How are we spending our time? Are we doing things that are fulfilling and great and creative? Or are we just kind of mulling things over, waiting for something to happen for us? And so the month of June kind of starts out with this flavor of timing. I'm really recommending be in touch with nature as much as you can. And we'll see when we get on towards the latter part of the month, we're going to go into this whole arena of massive change, mutation. Everything that we thought is basic and stable and set in stone, it's going to shift. So we might say we start out with a fairly tranquil part of the month, be able to see Mercury's catching up speed again. But I'm just saying, as the month progresses, it's going to get more and more interesting. So hang on to your hat.
Well, I heartily agree with that. Let's take a look at the full moon that's coming up just in a few days on June 3rd. We have a full moon in Sagittarius. And that, of course, Sagittarius always sparks the desire for travel and new adventures and new horizons. We want to delve deeply into life and, the meaning of life and examine our philosophy, our beliefs, travel, see new places, expand our horizons. Jupiter is the planet of expansion and growth. And the other thing that's happening with this full moon is that on the, of course, the other side of the full moon, so we've got the moon in Sagittarius and the sun would be opposite in Gemini. And Gemini also has this bit of wanderlust, this desire to experience many things and learn all kinds of new things. So it's being fed by that Sagittarius wanderlust, but it also it has an aspect at this full moon that is linking with Chiron, which is bringing more of a healing and up-leveling kind of energy. And what are we healing and up-leveling? We're healing and up-leveling the traditional, quote, male or masculine assertiveness and sense of power. So not that assertiveness is not a good, assertiveness is a very good thing, but the way it has been used in the past to sort of be power over others instead of empowering others. So that the really clear, enlightened male brings empowerment to everyone. That's essentially what an enlightened man does, a man on the path of growing awareness would do. So we're looking at up-leveling, not just for the men in our world, in our community here, but the male side within each of us females as well. So how do we approach using that assertive side of ourselves? So this is a deep kind of look at some changes. And speaking of changes, we're also having some cultural shifts. Mercury, the planet of communication, is conjoined, really tightly conjoined Uranus, which is the awakener to higher states of consciousness. It's what births our awareness from the third dimensional reality that we assume we live in to the fifth dimensional possibility, which is a level of co-creation. So this indicates that there's cultural shifts now emerging as Mercury and Uranus come together, and the values are changing rapidly. Our values are changing rapidly in response to the changing times. The other beautiful aspect that's happening right now, I really love this aspect, and for all of you artists and musicians and dreamers and meditators, the planet Neptune in a beautiful triangle with Venus. So like no other, this is an amazing time, and especially it's in the water signs of Pisces and Cancer. It's such a lovely time for meditation and for inspired creativity. In the midst of lots of challenges, lots of changes, make sure that we're taking that time to go within, to do our meditation, our contemplation, our walks in nature, whatever it is that brings us to a place of realignment with our soul awareness and remembering who we really are, what we're here doing and being. At the same time, Venus is also in a very tight opposition to Pluto, the planet of transformation. And so that brings us to a deep examination of our values and our value system, and also how we're going about money creation. I'm sure most of you are aware that there's been this big debate about in the whole financial world and looking at cryptocurrencies, other ways of finding new ways for human beings to exchange value. And of course, any time that change is introduced into the culture, there's always this segment of society that wants to resist it. We fear change because it takes us out of our comfort zones. We're going to have to stretch a bit, learn something new, be awkward as we're trying something new. So there's this natural resistance to change. Some of us are more resistant to change than others. But we're going to see that in the culture, and we do see it now. There's a, sort of battle lines are being drawn everywhere between the conservative viewpoint and the more progressive viewpoint. But breakthroughs are happening regardless of the fear or regardless of the conservative viewpoints. These breakthroughs are coming hard and fast, and they're just going to continue to do that. One of the breakthroughs is going to be some new ways of working with exchange of value or currency. So let's see what else is going on at this point in time. Well, the one other thing is that Mars, a very creative energy with Mars in Leo, in a nice linking aspect with the Sun in Gemini. So remember, the Sun in Gemini is opposite the Moon in Sagittarius here at the full moon in early June. And Mars is interacting with both of those. It's really forging new creative approaches to our work and to our business. So that should be exciting as well. That aspect is exact on June 5th. Over to you.
All right. So I just wanted to give a few words around the full moon on the 3rd of June in gateway number 5, the gateway of waiting, the gateway of universal timing. And it takes place in the 3rd line. I'm just going to read the 3rd line. It's the line that's called being nervous. 3rd lines always, they're a little stir crazy. 3rd lines always want to get into something and check it out and experiment with it. And the line is called being nervous, the potential to become anxious when it seems like nothing is happening. Right? So I say, beginning of June is going to be a little bit quiet, a little bit, the storm is building or something's coming along. And just to be at peace with that. If I talk about us, gaining psychic abilities and gaining clairaudience, clairvoyance, these kinds of things, getting third eye activation, whatever it is that's going on at the moment, I just say, allow it to be. Don't get nervous with it. Let it come through. And don't seek to hang on to it. It's not supposed to happen every single time. It's like we all have all kinds of different gifts, and allowing them to come and go in their own very particular way is a great thing. Of course, exercise, use them consciously and clearly, but just be aware that it's not something you want to hang on to necessarily. It's just, if it comes, see it as a gift, use it well. And if it disappears again, it just opens up the possibility for something else to come along as well. We get a little bit further into the month, and on the 12th, the sun goes into gateway number 45. And this is the gateway that is the voice for what we call the tribal system in human design. It's the gateway that's called gathering together, like pulling in resources. So it's a great time, kind of 12th through the 17th, to be really checking in on resources. And how are these resources being used? Are they being used well? And when we look at the tribe, we look at the tribe as a gathering. We could say it a family, we could call it a community, we could call it a corporation even. And it's like people work together towards a common cause. And the 45 is kind of the head. It's the patriarch, the matriarch. It's the one who sits at the head of the table, calls the shots, has the last word. And so this 45 opens up this possibility of a very clear communication of how to use resources well. When we get a little bit further on, the sun goes into the last of the individual throat gateways, and this happens on the 14th and goes into gateway number 12. Gateway number 12 is the gate called Stand Still. So we're entering into this whole scene of the civilization, the quarter of civilization. What is civilization all about? It's open communications, it's doing creative things together, it's contributing to each other's lives. And the 45 is really the gateway of taking responsibility for the resources and how they're used. The gateway number 12 says, stop, hang on a minute. Let's have a look-see. Let's really check that what we're doing here is taking us in a way that is creative, novel, different. Or are we just going round and round in circles? Are we just kind of carrying on the same kind of thing? And so the 12th gateway opens up this life theme that we call the Garden of Eden. At this very same moment in time, Saturn does a turn. Saturn does a retrograde turn in gateway number 37. And gateway number 37 is the gateway of friendship and family and community. So here we are. We're kind of at this point in time and just say, well, who is our family and community? Are these people on the same wavelength with me? Are we comfortable in each other's company to the point that we all support each other? Saturn is spending these years going through all the gateways in the emotion center in human design. So it's really giving us a bit of a workout, in terms of, are we clear in our feelings? And how do we express these feelings and how do we interact? So the sun going into gateway number 12 opens up this Garden of Eden. Now, it's a very curious name for a life theme. Oh, yeah, I was born in the Garden of Eden. Well, yeah, You may well have been born in the Garden of Eden, but there comes a realization when you're about 4 or 5 years old that all of a sudden, hang on a minute, this is not playing out the way the Garden of Eden should play out. That things are out of integrity here. So we're all getting this examination in this point in time, just before we get to the summer equinox or the the summer equinox,
the
summer solstice,
mm-hmm.
right? Summer solstice or the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. And I always wondered about this solstice, it's like, this is when the earth kind of wobbles a little bit where it angles towards the sun. And this is as far as it wobbles in one direction. So the northern hemisphere is aimed more towards the sun than the southern hemisphere. Hence the weather changes. We're supposed to get sunshine in the north and it gets more wintry in the south.
There's also a point at which the sun appears to be standing still. Solstice, stand still.
So, they say that Stonehenge was built literally to line up with that summer solstice. So you'd look through the blocks of stone and you'd get to a point and you'd see there's the sun. And that would be, and I always wondered, they went to all this trouble to build this thing. Did they imagine that maybe one day the sun would just carry on, or the earth would carry on tilting and turn upside down or something like that? So the solstice is a very, very important point in time for all of humanity. This is just my imagination playing with it. And it just, it made me wonder, what is this tremendous significance about the solstice? Why did they build this massive monument that nobody really knows what it's all about, except for the fact that it lines up with the solstice? And it comes down to the fact that the sun now goes into gateway number 15. And the gateway number 15 in human design, we call it the gateway of humanity. And this gateway is common to all living things. So I mentioned briefly about, really great time to be in touch with nature, but the solstice is all about that as well. It's all about exploring the concept of life. What is life all about? What are we doing here? Is anything we've ever been told accurate? Because this moment in time where the solstice happens, we have this direct connection with an actual key point in everything to do with our life. It connects us back into perfect geometry. It connects us back into everything to do with planet Earth and life on this planet. So a lot of things to be looking at this moment in time. The other thing that takes place is Venus and Neptune, as you've described, they have this very, very merry dance together. They start interacting, and Venus, the love perhaps on the human level, what we draw to us on the human level, and Neptune in the gate 36, this gateway of conflict resolution. It's about exploring deeply into our spiritual connections. So I'm throwing a whole bunch of balls up in the air at the moment around this solstice and just saying, this is a moment in time where the solstice happens that we really have an opportunity to connect deeply into our lives, any sense of purpose here, any sense of connection here, any sense of what civilization is doing. And really in this very vital year of global relations, it's a key point in time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are we going to go up, or are we going to kind of mess around and do stupid things still? In simple terms.
Or a little of both. Well, I'm going to back up a little bit and go to the third quarter moon that happens on June 10th, because that's kind of setting the stage for the whole solstice, big, change with the solstice. So the third quarter moon is the point we looked at the full moon, and that's the point when the energies that are potential for the month come into our biggest awareness, and we're really implementing. At the third quarter moon, we've been implementing, we've been moving towards whatever the new thing is that we're doing this month, or we're learning this month, and we're at a point where we've made progress, we've made some progress, or maybe a lot of progress, and it's sort of another checkpoint. And this one brings new innovation and creative new ideas into actualization. So we have the planet Venus, which, as we know, is our values. It's our love nature. It's how we attract money into our life. It's how we attract all the yummy things in life. And we're because of its position opposite Pluto, we're kind of, this money revolution is kind of continuing. We're looking at new currencies, new methods of value exchange. As I said before, But the other thing that's happening on the other end of that is while Pluto is still very much opposing Venus, it had moved into the sign of Aquarius for just a few months, it just dipped into Aquarius. And now it's retrograding back into the sign of Capricorn. And in Capricorn, we're back into this phase of more healing of the world systems. I mean, essentially, Pluto is transformation and healing, Capricorn is systems. So we've been in this since 2008, where the systems that we have in place, government systems, healthcare systems, financial systems, what other systems are there? Social services systems, education system, all of our systems.
Military
we're seeing
systems.
The cracks in the systems. We're seeing what's not working. We're realizing that many of the systems were built on a foundation of consciousness that was from a long time ago, and that isn't really relevant to these days. But we're in the midst of the breakdown of those systems, and we haven't yet turned that corner to see the emergence of the new systems, although we're beginning to see that. The light is beginning to dawn. So for the rest of 2023, Pluto will be back in Capricorn. So again, we're going to be back looking at our systems and can they be saved? Can they be revived? Can they be improved? Do they need to be trashed altogether, start over? So a pretty deep look. And this goes on 2023 and into 2024 before Pluto is firmly in the sign of Aquarius. And we're really moving forward. By then, we're going to see that all these new inventions that just in this past year or two have just, mushroomed on the scene. What we're talking about, AI.
I mean, there's talk of a complete revolution in the whole medical practice.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's like
CRISPR.
being able to look at the CRISPR, being able to look at all 600 of the genes and edit the genes with this process that would then take the genetic material and return it to its healthiest state. So that would be the healing of all diseases that we've known, all 600 diseases that we're aware of on the planet. So
only 600?
only
They keep inventing them all the time.
Well, right. Anyway, it's very, very, very exciting times. We're on the precipice of really big, big breakthroughs, but we're still in that transition phase that's never comfortable. So hang in there, keep doing your work, bring your light into the world, and find your joy. Find your moments of quiet and find your joy amidst all the chaos, because we are going to emerge with some really great solutions as Pluto goes into the sign of Aquarius and humanity begins working together as a team, like one planet, one humanity. Lots of healing going on still. Mercury is in this beautiful triangle energy with Pluto, which basically means that we have the potential to experience or to instigate empowered communication and empowered alliances with others. The other thing that's happening around communication is that the healing energy with the Sun and Gemini in this linking aspect with Chiron and Aries is really about healing our community. I think the essence could be spoken like this: be impeccable with your word. That the word is creative. It's a vibrational reality that we're putting into the world. So when we tell little white lies, or we sort of fudge the truth, or we, this very human kind of thing that we probably all do. I know I've done. We dishonor and we miss what the potential empowerment that we could be offering into the world by being impeccable with our word. So that is the message from the universe at this point in time, at this third quarter junction. And also looking to find, it's kind of uncertain times financially. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, but the stock market's going down. Well, so what? It goes down, it goes up. It always does that. I mean, look at the history. So what are we worried about? So you work with it, you engage with it, but you don't let your fears take over. And yes, be smart about it. Find safe havens for your money and for your resources, but don't do it out of fear. That's, I think, essentially the message of this third quarter moon. Over to you.
Right. So I got to the point where we arrive at the solstice, and just before that, the sun has gone into gateway number 15, which I'm saying is the gateway that's common to all living things. And it occurs to me in these times, I talk about doing stupid things still. We've still got this thing like war going on. We've still got these disputes going on. People take advantage of each other. Oh, what a fabulous new bomb we've got. It destroys more people and more things than ever before. It's like really stupid things. So the gateway number 15 is the gateway of love of humanity. So the solstice really gives us that point in time. That's where we might say, hey, I'm not going to subscribe to this stuff anymore. I'm not going to subscribe to destruction. I'm going to move my energy towards creativity more and more and more. I was hanging out with a young man the other day who came to a full point of realization in his lifetime. He got it. Everything stopped for him. He got it. He was raised in a Christian household in a Hindu country and is now working with Buddhist background, Buddhist materials. And he told me a fascinating story that's about somebody asked the Buddha, what were the chances of having a lifetime on planet Earth, to be incarnate, to have this experience here? And the story went something like this. Imagine if the whole world was covered with water. And in that water, there lived a turtle that was blind, a blind turtle. And every 100 years, it would come to the surface. And on that surface of the water all over the planet Earth, there was a loop, there was a ring floating on the surface. And so the chances of having a lifetime on this planet was, if this blind turtle swimming around, and once every 100 years, it put its nose up through the water, and it actually put its nose through that ring. That would be the possibility of having a lifetime here. And it knocked me sideways, just realizing what an extraordinary experience it is to have this incarnation. And with the solstice, what an extraordinary moment in time it is to be able to stop and have a look. And just to recognize the relevance of our life. We might say life has no purpose, but the purpose is to create purpose in our lives. To dedicate and put our energies towards things that really bring us a sense of value in ourselves. Like in the first place, to really trust and appreciate and accept ourselves. And that's why I've always been so excited about human design, because it's a really substantial map of who we are, the owner's manual of who we are and how our life plays out, and just play it out to the full. So the solstice takes place with the sun in gateway number 15, this gateway of love of humanity. People that have this gateway, they've always got time for somebody else. It doesn't matter if they're a beggar or a prince, they've got time for them. Everybody's appreciated on that level. And so it really is that opportunity in this midpoint of the year to come together and really remember that. Shortly after that, the nodes of the moon, the destiny path for humanity changes. And the north node goes into gateway number 3 and the south node goes into gateway number 50. So the south node represents where we're coming from. And the 50th gateway represents our values in life. What are the values that we include in our lives to support our own life and the lives of the community and everyone around us? The north node goes into gateway number 3, which is the gateway of innovation. So we might say the destiny path for humanity is moving towards, let's do something differently. Okay? So the significance of the north node in gateway number 3 is we remember, oh yeah, Pluto's in gateway number 60, and that means we have this channel of mutation in human design. We're moving into mutated times. We're going to be shifting a bunch of old values and doing something new and novel and different and completely out of the box through this channel of mutation. It's individual, it's different. And this is going to go on all the way from the 22nd of June all the way to August the 26th. So as I said a little earlier, hang on to your hats. It's going to get very interesting. There's going to be some massive shifts in how humanity sees itself. And just this is really an amazing season for us to remember. Yes, we are part of the human race here. Yes, we have this extraordinary lottery ticket we bought or won.
Somehow.
This blind turtles got our number and the whole called us in here. And just to have the most extraordinary life experience here. Let's be done with this destructive atmosphere. and let's start moving more and more to being creative, appreciating each other, letting go of the boundaries and all this stuff, and just, change the whole thing. We have the power to be able to do that. And it's just about letting.
We're the only ones that are going to do it. There's no rescue committee coming.
We're it. So I hope you see this in the right light, and according to what I see in human design as part of this month, and the possibilities here for these big jumps.
Just as we move right towards the summer solstice, which you've been talking about a lot, on the 21st, we do have a new moon at 26 degrees of Gemini, and that new moon is in a right angle with Neptune. And what that tells me is that we really need to be careful not to get so carried away with creative ideas that we miss some essential truths that we really need to pay attention to. So meditation, slowing down, being clear within yourself before you just rush forward because something's exciting. This new moon, it starts a new cycle. It's in really favorable connection with the moving soul path of all humanity. It's in Taurus right now. So it's about choosing practical solutions and activities for our endeavors, not pie in the sky stuff. There's a lot of romantic energy right now, Venus and Mars. When I say right now, I'm talking about June 17th, 18th, 19th, leading up to the summer solstice. There's a lot of romantic energy. It's good connection, good communication. And it's linked also, Venus and Mars linked also with Chiron, which means it's another opportunity for healing any old pain or hurt or disappointment. If we've been let down, who of us hasn't been let down by a lover? But to heal that within ourselves and to forgive it so that we can move forward free and clear. It's time to begin integrating the lessons that Saturn has been bringing us. You mentioned it going retrograde. While it goes retrograde, so Saturn's been bringing us some lessons about our spirituality and our connection to source. And now that it's gone retrograde, it's really time to begin integrating those learnings that we've had. So it's not just, a conceptual learning, but it's more integrated learning, something that we're living and demonstrating. And the other thing I would say is with Pluto now back in Capricorn, which I talked about a little bit ago, it's also coming to an exact right angle with the moving soul path for all humanity, the North Node. And so, and the North Node is in its last little bit of Taurus, which is the sign of values, before it goes into Aries, which is a sign of action. So we're really at this juncture of needing to make sure that we're standing firm on our foundation before we launch out with brand new things. And I would say that would bring us to the close of the month, although of course we'll be back with you again on Saturday, June 24th. And at that time, we'll be talking about the energy moving through the latter part of June, following the summer solstice and taking us into the summer season, or the winter season for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere.
And just at the end of June, we're going to be checking into, what does service really imply? And are we being served? And when we say that, we're looking around to see, well, where do we derive service from? Is it from the people that are in government that we voted into place to take charge of things, to look after the interests of humanity? Or is there something else going on there altogether? So we'll close out the month of June really examining that and just seeing, are we on the right track with things? So there we are. Well done, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next month, and have an amazing month of June. Really an extraordinary time.
See you again soon.